Welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. News, culture, sports, politics, and everything else from a theological perspective.
It's all summed up in love.
What should I do? Tell me. God is good. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give me peace. Give me peace.
Put that in your theological pipe and smoke it.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day. Their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells, more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. That is a poem written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in 1863, and it's also it was made into a Christmas song. And I read that because I kind of want to talk about that song and about Christmas and some things that I've been thinking about and just maybe something just to think about during Christmas. We all have our favorite Christmas songs. Oh Holy Night is probably one of my favorites, Silent Night. But this one recently became probably one of my favorites. And it's because I learned some things behind the song that made it have a different meaning to me. It took on I don't want to say special meaning, but it took on a deeper meaning to me. And it's the same thing that happened with the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And so thank you for joining me. If you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe, comment, like. If you're listening on any of the apps, Apple, Spotify, Google, we're now on iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, all those kind of podcast apps, click subscribe. The movie It's a Wonderful Life, let's start there. The movie It's a Wonderful Life. I can say that up until last year, never watched the whole movie through. Seen clips, it's played in the background, never sat down and watched it. And there's no real reason, I just never have. It wasn't until a few years ago that I read a little bit about Jimmy Stewart, the main actor in the movie, and what he was going through when he made the movie. Jimmy Stewart was an actor, and World War II broke out. He went to fight, and he enlisted, and the military wanted to make him kind of a guy that would do those patriotic videos to pump up America, and he said, no, I want to fight. So he became a bomber guy, and he was on many missions and bombed people and did all those things, and they called it flak happy back in those days. What we know now is PTSD. He got some severe cases of PTSD that he had to be grounded. He fought and was in battles for 15 months, and then was grounded and then came home after the war. And his PTSD from what people have talked to him about, and you can go read about this, his PTSD came from, he wasn't scared, he wasn't, didn't think he should be fighting or anything. His problem was he was worried that while he was doing the bombing runs, that if he made a mistake, innocent people would die, and that weighed on him really heavily. And he was dealing with PTSD, and when he came back to the States and started talking about doing movies, he talked to the director, Frank Capra, of It's a Wonderful Life. Stewart wanted to do a comedy because of the war, but they talked him into doing this movie, and his people that were around him said he really did the movie because he didn't have any other offers. But as you watch the movie, you can see that George Bailey is suicidal. He's going through a lot of issues, and they say that Jimmy Stewart was working through his PTSD as he was doing the movie. And it's just, it added a dimension to the movie that, number one, I didn't even know was there. And then as you watch it, it just took on a different meaning. And now, I'll watch it every year. It's a great movie. I know it's a classic, but for me, just I've ignored it until I learned a little bit more about it, and it took on a different meaning for me. And it's the same thing with this poem that became a song, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. I've heard the song before, and I don't want to say it was bad or good, it just was another Christmas song. But Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote a poem that the song is based on. The song is based on his poem, and he wrote the poem in 1863, right? 2 years before he wrote the poem, he was married and his wife was killed. She died in a fire. And then in 1862, he had an oldest son who joined the Union Army when the Civil War broke out. And it was against his father's blessings, against his wishes. This is how Henry Wadsworth Longfellow found out. His son wrote him a letter. And this is what the letter says. It says, "I have tried hard to resist the temptation of going without your leave, but I cannot any longer. I feel it my duty to do what I can do for my country, and I would willingly lay down my life for it if it would be of any good." And so his oldest son, without his blessing, enlists to fight in the Union Army. And I don't know if you're familiar with the movie The Patriot, but it sounds like maybe Mel Gibson might have borrowed some of that dynamic when he did his movie with him and Heath Ledger enlisting without his permission. So Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, his wife died a few years ago, Civil War starts, and now his oldest son enlists without his blessing, and he finds out through a letter. And it's in this time frame where Henry Wadsworth Longfellow writes, "I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day," from the poem. And I read the poem, and when you look at the poem and you look at the lyrics and you listen to the song, we're going to listen to the song here in a minute. I'm going to play a really good version of it. It takes on a deeper meaning. He's talking about Christmas and hearing the bells and peace on earth, goodwill to men, and he remembers Christmas, and then he remembers the Civil War. He remembers that his son is out fighting, and it depresses him, but then at the end he comes back to faith in God and knowing that the right will prevail and stuff. So I want to play a version of this song for you. I'm probably going to stop it once or twice just so I don't mess up any of the copyright claims. I know you're allowed to do this on Facebook or on YouTube and stuff, and but sometimes they mute things or do things, take the song off there. I don't want to make anyone mad, but this is a great version of the song. It's called it's by Echo Smith. So I'm going to play it. Like I said, I'll probably stop it once or twice just to make a comment to not have anyone get mad, and then I would encourage you to go listen to the song in its entirety without me interrupting it and stuff like that. But again, this is the song, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, and it's by Echo Smith. So I'll stop now again just to try to make sure nobody gives me the copyright claim or mutes the song. But this is a kind of a different version than most versions of this song you're going to hear. So, listen to a couple different versions. I like doing that. But again, I just picture Henry Wadsworth Longfellow hearing the Christmas bells, hearing Christmas carols, and the promise of peace on earth, goodwill to men, which is what Jesus Christ, the birth of the baby Savior, means and ushers in for mankind. So he's hearing that, and he's listening, and he's writing about peace on earth, goodwill to men. And I'll stop it again here. This is the verse that I like the most, because it's real and it's honest. And I think a lot of people who do songs, they could have left there's a couple verses they left out from the poem, to make the song shorter. But they could have left this verse out and just talk about peace on earth, goodwill to men. But Longfellow, as he's writing this and going through it, and the people singing, they're like, this is a moment of despair. Things don't look good. He says, in despair I bowed my head. There's no peace on earth, right? He's in the midst of the Civil War when he writes this. He says, hate is strong and it mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. So he's hearing the carols, he's hearing the bells, promising peace on earth, goodwill to men, and then he's slapped with reality. And the reason I like this song is, number one, he's honest, but number two, he's going to come back to the fact that there is a God, and Christmas is about Jesus being born. And I'm not going to say this is a religious song, but it has definite religious overtones of having faith and trusting in God and trusting what Christmas is about, that God's not dead. He's not asleep. Things will work out according to his plan. The right are going to prevail, and in the end, we are going to beat our swords into plowshares. There is going to be peace on earth, and that's the promise of Jesus. That's a promise of Christmas. It's a promise of the Messiah being born. So love that verse, and I love this last verse. Good. That's just a good song. And I love the last verse there. Again, he says, then pealed the bells more loud and deep. I mean, they didn't get louder. They didn't get more deep. He just recognized the truth. He recognized what they were. And I love that part. Like, even in the midst of his struggle, even in the midst of his despair, even in the midst of a civil war, where he was saying that, those bells mock what's going on, but then all of a sudden they got louder. No, he just remembered that God's not dead. He's not asleep. The wrong are going to fail ultimately. Right is going to prevail, and there's going to be peace on earth, goodwill to men. And I love that part. I love how it's kind of, to me, a message for myself, for you, for us, when we're going through tough times. And let's be honest, these are really strange times that we're going through when it comes to everything that we're dealing with COVID and division and social media and elections and vaccines and all this stuff. There's despair. But I think this is a cool thing for us to sometimes block out the world, block out those noises, and listen to the word of God. Listen to what God is. God, he's not dead. He's not asleep. He knows what he's doing, and there's going to be peace on earth. There's going to be goodwill toward men. We're going to get through this, and this song just has taken on a different meaning for me because I know the backstory of it. Because I know Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I'm an English major. Got my bachelor's degree in English, and have read his poems and know who he is. Didn't know this story, and when I found this out, it just made this song all the more meaningful for me, and again, especially those last two verses. So I encourage you. That was Echo Smith. You can go listen to their version. Go listen to other versions. There's other versions, and again, they're normally done a little bit differently, more choir-like or somber. But great song, and great to know the backstory. Again, backstory of It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart made that movie more meaningful to me, or more fun to watch because I know the backstory. And definitely with this song and the lyrics and what Wadsworth was what Longfellow was going through when he wrote it, and just the story behind it makes it stand out that much more. And again, this version is great too. So again, as we go through, as we get ready to celebrate Christmas, here in 10 days, get rid of the world. Get rid of the noise that you hear from media, social media, newspapers, however you get your information. Get rid of that stuff, and remember that God's not dead. He's not asleep, right? The wrong are going to fail ultimately. The right will prevail, and there's going to be peace on earth, goodwill to men. Why? Because of that baby in the manger. So focus on those things when it comes to Christmas. Focus on the right things, and there will be peace on earth. There will be goodwill to men, and that's just a good thing. And I love the fact that he wrote this going through probably the most difficult time in his life. His wife's dead. His kid's off fighting in a war. His country's at war, and he writes this, and in the end he has hope because he knows God. And I think that's important. And again, this is Theological Pipe, and if you know God, you can know peace. You can have that sort of peace that surpasses understanding, that even in the midst of struggles, you can know that things are going to be okay. So put that in your Theological Pipe and smoke it. Merry Christmas as we get closer. Again, I'm going to try to do some more Christmas-related stuff as we get closer to Christmas. Put that in your Theological Pipe and smoke it. Be nice. Have faith.
Well, bye.